We'll be starting in about a minute. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jason with Eduphoria. Welcome to our Wednesday webinar for June the 24th. This will be one of several webinars that we will do on aware updates and some changes and new things and just new interface type stuff. We're going to try to keep these webinars fairly short, so we're not going to cover everything that's new. We will talk about some things as we go, and sometimes we'll have some expansion of more information down the road. But we want to keep these short so that if you are in a place that you need to share these out with other folks as the video, the recording, that is very pertinent information that they can see and pay attention to, and we don't want them to have to scroll through and fast forward and stuff through an hour-long webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, like I said, I'm Jason. Jenny's on with me, and we're going to be presenting this webinar. And as you see in the picture, Joel is lurking in the background. He'll be helping us with doing some questions and just some technical stuff and getting the recording converted and posted and everything like that. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do. Like always, like I said, it'll be recorded. So that link will be posted on several places. You'll get a link to it if you registered. And then also questions. If you have questions about the topics that we cover today, please keep them pertinent to the topics, preferably. Put them in the little Q&A box, and we'll try to get them answered. Sometimes we'll just answer them via text, typing to you in response if it's something very specific. If it's something that needs to be addressed verbally, then we'll bring the attention to each other to talk about that. So please put those questions in. All right, so there's a lot of these things, we've announced these things through our social media and email, and so some of you probably know most about all these things. We hadn't really showed them. There might have been some images, obviously, in the online help articles or things like that that you've seen, but we wanted to do a webinar to kind of show them live and talk through them if you have any specific questions about them. I will say that when we get to the teacher editing part, before those questions even come up, we're going to just show a little bit about that, the management of it. We will be doing a specific webinar on the use of teacher editing in July. It's already planned, so that will be something that you definitely can share more with your teachers on how to and what the steps are. This part of teacher editing will be just more management, turning it on, how to do that, and so on. And so we'll expand on that as we get there. And then, we'll get to these other things. So let me get out of this presentation quick. And
people are already seeing Flippy Stays Flipped and going, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, the people that know. Yeah, so let me zoom in a little bit. And so under configuration options is where we're going to be. So if you're a data administrator in Aware, you have this configuration options on your Analyze tab. And the first two things we're going to talk about, both the EcoDis management and also the teacher editing management, will both be under configuration options. So I'm going to go ahead and click there, and you'll see these configuration options turn on. So talking first about EcoDis. In the past, up until we made this global management of EcoDis possible, the only way to grant access to a user to be able to see individual student EcoDis data. So they could always see summary labels. So I could see how many students at the campus level were EcoDis, how many students at the district level were EcoDis, but I could not see the individual student names and yes or no, were they EcoDis or not. That's always been the case. Well, not always, but for about the last 7 years, that's been the case. And so you had to go into roles and rights under user management and give a right to be able to view economic disadvantage status. And that was user by user. And then obviously for some of you that are at our larger districts, that is very work intensive to be able to manage that and keep up with it. And some districts out there want everybody to see that. Some districts don't. There's a big variance in policy when it comes to EcoDis. And so this is the ability to be able to manage globally by the user type, as you see up here, the information gathered and seen by each individual that's part of that type. So in the past, we did not have this option. So the first option is we don't want them to have any access whatsoever on EcoDis information. The default is what it's always been. And so these three in the middle are the default, meaning these user types can see summary level data by default. That's how it's always been. That is not a change. And so that's why it defaults to those radio buttons for EcoDis. And so if you don't want to change anything at all, you don't have to. Every user that you've already given individual access to will still have that individual access. That's still in the roles and rights. It's still possible. So you really don't have to make any change if you don't want to at all. But going forward, if you want to more globally manage who has access, so if I wanted my district level staff, the people that had a district role like district data viewer in Aware, if I wanted them to be able to see individual student data, then I could just move down here to this radio button here, change that, click the save button, and now anybody with a district global access level in Aware could see individual student data when it comes to economically disadvantaged status. So it's that simple. There are 3 different levels, 3 different user types right there on the radio buttons. That should be fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, a recommendation would be, make sure that we have everybody that needs to be involved in this decision-making at your district be involved in it. A lot of districts I know are aligning their policy to whatever they use in their student information system. And so we don't have a recommendation for what you do, but obviously it gives you more ability to more globally set access to EcoDis. Are there any questions about EcoDis management right here in the configuration options? I do not see any in the questions tab, but I'll wait a second. There's a help document that talks through this. It got released with the communication that came out via email and also our social media. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. A good change, help to manage that. Right above that is an added little checkbox to allow teachers to edit data views. So this has already been released. Every district has this ability right now. Teachers have the ability to get the edit button in Aware. I'm fixing to show it and talk a little bit about it, but like I said earlier, we're going to have a specific webinar later in July to talk about this so that you can have one webinar recording that's specifically talking about this that you can share to your teachers or others. But this is the ability to turn it on. So by default, nothing has changed for your teachers right now. So none of them, unless you've already gone in and checked this checkbox, no one has the ability to edit, and it is a all or nothing edit. So you turn it on as a district data viewer, as a data administrator. If you click the checkbox and click save, the edit button is now available for all teachers. All teachers. Now, it doesn't mean they have to click it, but they will have it. And so let me show you what that looks like. And so here's a teacher type account. And obviously they have export to Excel and export to PDF and stuff like that up here that's always been there. But as you see, there's the edit button. The edit button will now appear for them. And they also, because they have edit, will have a save button. Teachers have never had saved views either because they couldn't edit. And so they can save anything they edit, but they cannot share it at this time. And like I said, not going into full training mode here, but when teachers click edit, just to help clarify and make things a little cleaner and easier for teachers, only the tests that are applicable to the teacher themselves will show up. So not the full list of all tests in the district like most people see. And we've decided, just to help them be clear and not be confusing, we've only put in these 5 folders on the columns tab. So they only have demographics and then the 4 scoring type folders on the columns tab. And then on the summarize tab, it's only the demographics folder. So if you have the ability and you're comfortable editing, any of your administrators out there, district staff or campus staff, the process by which teachers do this is the exact same. So you are fully equipped to train them right now because you know how to do it. The only difference would be they see less things than you do. They can still filter. All of those things that work normally still work. They just don't have all of the fields that are available and all of the tests that don't apply to them. And so it's something we try to make a little cleaner and easier for teachers so that hopefully the training involvement is not as much as normal. Like I said, we will expand on that quite a bit when it comes to our webinar on teacher editing at all. Go ahead, Jenny.
The first big yay in all caps we got was from Valerie.
Of course. Of course. This is something we've been.
And she loves us.
Of course she does. Of course she does.
We love you too, Valerie.
That's right. This is something obviously that's been a request a long time. It is something that is not the end of our changes when it comes to teacher editing. It is a middle step of down the road we expect to enhance those features and continue to do that. But this definitely meets the need of teachers being able to manipulate their own data, which has been limited in the past. We just didn't want to overwhelm them, so we came to a compromise here and made it to where it's only certain fields of data. So yeah, very good thing, very good thing. All right, I don't see any other questions, so we're just moving right along. The Flippy button. So historically, it's always been here, and for those of you that don't know what the Flippy button is, it's actually compare across test, compare it across groups. These two buttons.
The technical term.
The technical term, yeah.
The technical term is the Flippy button.
Sure. Well, that's how you remember it. I mean, that's how I was taught it a long time ago. And so, in its simplest terms, people kind of sometimes say you're going to flip it from like landscape to portrait or vice versa. That's really not the truth of the thing. But if that helps you remember, if it helps you remember, then that's great. But essentially what it does is when I'm comparing across groups, and in this case, I only have one group of all students, you see that it scrolls across the page, the data, and sometimes there's too much and I'd have to scroll and it makes it hard for me to compare, especially if in this case, like I have a multi-test comparison, it's hard to compare. So we always recommended you hit the compare across test button and it takes the same fields and just rearranges them to where it's now, it flipped it on its side to where the standards were going across the top, left to right. Now they're up and down, just switch the order there. And so we're seeing the data. And it's much easier to see, better to see. That's always been the case. That has not changed. That will still work the same way. Unfortunately, what used to happen up until very recently is if you were to export this view that has been flipped to Excel, in Excel, it would flip it back. And you would be frustrated. You're like, I had it flipped and I wanted to see it that way in Excel. But for some reason, Aware never let you export a compare across test view and stay in compare across test. It would always go back to the compare across groups look.
It worked in PDF. It worked in
PDF, just not Excel.
Not in Excel, yeah.
Let me get so there you go. So there's the proof of it. So it's the same thing I was just looking at. It's just exported to Excel. It stayed. So not a huge thing for a lot of people out there probably, because some of you may have never been experienced that. But those of you that are deep Aware users and have been exporting to Excel over time and manipulating some stuff in Excel, that's a pretty big little thing. And so there it is. It's out. It's available. It works for everybody right now. Good news. All right, moving right along. And so this next topic, if we'll go back to my little presentation here, we're just talking about interface changes and the creation wizard. These are kind of interconnected. We have some front end, and for those of you the user experience UX people, our front end people, they've been going through and they look at things and they say, this should look this way, this would be better being this way. And so it's really not, none of the things we're going to talk about has really changed the way you do anything. Just some of the little buttons may be different. It used to say add and now it's a plus sign, or vice versa. So we just wanted to kind of not cover all of them because there's a lot of them out there, but at least bring it to your attention a couple of things that look different so that when you see some other things out there, it just makes sense. Why are they doing it? Our developers are really trying to create a consistent feel and look across all of our applications going forward. And so as this is a long-term project that will happen over probably continuously, to where they're going and updating things. But before I get into there, speaking of test creation, just a reminder of what we covered during the end of year webinar, and also some of our communication that's gone out by email. The legacy create a new test will go away next Tuesday. So as of July 1st, this will not be here. So at the end of June, the legacy will be gone away. So if anybody at your district is still using that, they can for the next, 5-6 days. And then it will be gone. And then you'll have to use the new create a test options here. Okay, just wanted to reiterate that. All right, so I'm gonna quickly do a key. That is also somewhat new for those of you that hadn't do it. It's a little bit different. Not new like recently new, but it's new compared to a year or two ago. Quickly go in here and pick some stuff. I'm just going to build like 5 multiple choice real quick. This is not any different. I will say that a rule is these sections of the test is kind of what I say. So if I have 5 selected response and then I'm going to have a numerical response, then I would say I want 1 numerical response, you know, and then you can do your stuff and then you could add another one or whatever. This is kind of repetitive. We've already covered these things, but since I'm on, this is a great way to build a new quick test key these days, a lot faster than in the past, and you can use more stuff than just multiple choice. In the past, a long time ago, when you were doing a quick test key, you had to do the wizard only did multiple choice. You had to add the other things after the fact. So now you can do it all through the wizard. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete that step. When I get into the quick test key now, this also will be the case when we get to the questions, which we'll move over to in a minute. But up until these interface changes, it said add standard, and it was side by side, standard 1, standard 2. They've changed it to now where they're stacked on top of each other and it's just a plus. So if I wanted to add the first standard, I just click that, click the standard, add it. If I have a secondary standard, process standard or whatever, click the second one. So nothing you're doing is different. The interface looks a little bit different than it did prior to these changes. Everything else is the same. It used to say save, now it's a little save disk, but if you hover over it, it says save. So once again, not really any process change, still do the same things. I will say that it's faster to click these buttons now that the interface has changed, but really no difference. So hopefully out there you understand it, and it does look cleaner. Once again, that's the purpose here, is to kind of make everything look cleaner and be more, they take up the right amount of space on the screen and so on. Our UX people, our front end people are truly artists. That's what they do. So if they look at the screen and think about a picture or a painting, and they want to make sure the spacing is all right and unique and lined up and so on. And so when they're constantly making these changes, it's because it makes it a better experience for the user. And so that's kind of the motivation there. Let me go back to the questions tab, and then Jenny, you want to, so Jenny was talking about the item bank. And so you also have this, which is a little bit different. And then Jenny, if you want to talk about the stuff that you were talking about with the item bank search.
Well, on the item bank search, when we go back here, the screen just looks a little bit different when you choose your learning standards. I'm not sorry. I was trying to click on Jason's screen. I'm totally trying to close out. So one of the things I think people miss sometimes, I just wanted to show this. If you just want to choose a new standard, you click the X next to the standard, not the X over here on the far right, and that takes you back to the standards list.
Great point. Yeah, this closes out completely. This is closing
that
out
takes
that
you
standard.
back to the questions tab on the test, but this takes you back to the standard. And then also, we've added some things here, the add all displayed questions. So if I go in and I filter for star released items for 2018, because I want to give the 2018 release test, yeah, not a practice we encourage, but
And that would be over here. She was talking about, you know, you would be searching over here.
yep. So I could put in star 2018, pull up all those. I don't have to add those items individually anymore. I can add all 24 displayed items or 42 or 64 or whatever the number is. I think it goes up to 150 items. So plenty of room there for you to add all items for a test. That was something that was available in the old interface that didn't carry over right away to the new interface. It is available now. The other thing is under the resources tab. So the resources toggle, questions and resources.
I think I'm on a science test, but there are some.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah, there'll be some. So the other thing is here, when I open up the questions for the resource that's showing, I can add all those. There's an add all questions option there. So I can add one or all of the questions. We always, always, always encourage you to review those questions, even if you just click add all questions. Once they're on the test, review them. Sometimes there'll be a duplicate question. You know, maybe the same question, a little difference in the answer choices, that kind of thing, depending on your item bank vendors. So always review those questions. Don't just like take it at face value. I added all the questions for that resource. So that, other than that, it's really just the look of the item bank. Options have changed some, not any real big functional changes. Other than, you know, like you might click in a little different spot, or it might look a little different when you click. So,
and also sneak peek, and Jenny and I had already talked about this. It's not released to everybody yet, but on ELA tests, those of you that have built tests, even in the new editor, searching by the item bank, the question in ELA tests, there's nothing that's on the questions tab. Though, you know, for reading grade 6. You know, they're all tied to reading passages, and so you'd have to flop over to the resources. And if you forget to do that and you search over here, it's going to say that no questions were found or something like that, and you're going to be frustrated. Very soon, for ELA test, it will default to the resources tab.
right.
So just that one more convenience. So I think hopefully, you know, you just understand that we're just doing this for convenience for some reasons, and then obviously for a cleaner, more consistent look across applications. Are there any questions about any of the topics so far? Wanted to make sure that we definitely reminded about the legacy going away. Next Tuesday will be the last day for it. Any questions?
Nope, looks like we're good.
So this is a record length of a webinar. We wanted to keep it less than 30 minutes, and we did. Obviously, like I said, there are more things. We will dig deeper into teacher editing and some other things going forward to give you some materials and resources to share out with other staff about specific things. And there will be additional webinars just to introduce some new things. Our development team are busy doing things, and that's a good thing. A lot of things coming, a lot of new stuff. We will always announce the webinars, you know, a few days. I know, I think our marketing team missed one of our emails about this one, and we apologize for that. But we'll make sure that our communication gets out so that you have time to share and register for the webinars that you come in. But like always, they're recorded, and you can reference them later. And so we do have a question about the next webinar. Joel, putting you on the spot, lurking in the weeds. Do we know?
I'm looking right now. So the next aware focus.
Oh, well, yeah, we can just say next and next aware, either one. So,
Okay. So our next webinar is going to actually be next Wednesday. It's focused on Strive and building e-courses in Strive connected to like virtual learning resources. And then the next aware one is online testing updates, and that will be July 29th.
Right.
And you can
Awesome.
register now. There's also, I just looked. There's another one on the 22nd of July that's teacher data
The
view
teacher
editing.
editing. Yeah, the teacher editing is July 22nd. So there's two in a row, July 22nd and 29th about aware. One specifically about teacher editing, and the other one would be about online test improvements.
Another thing to know, those of y'all who are responsible for doing training materials for your district, the help documentation for everything we've gone over today and everything that we're going to go over in July is already done. So it's already available. Their articles are already available in our help section. So you've got screenshots, you have, wording already available to you there. So it's not, if you're worried about missing something or not necessarily all the interface changes are in there. They're so small and again, don't really change how the software functions in a lot of ways, just what it looks like. But all of the things like teacher editing, all of the stuff we're going to go over for online testing in July, that's all, the help documentation is already done for those things. So it's all in the help section already.
Right. And speaking of help section, just full disclosure, we are testing a new InAware. We're testing a new way to help people. This is in beta and we're doing some internal testing. And so if you see that on the side this week, that's why. We're really working hard to down the road, use this way of helping folks that will be very pertinent to the screen they're on, and also pertinent to any current information that's, and so down the road, you could envision clicking Eddie Helps on this item bank search, and it would come up with links to the articles on item bank search, so that you wouldn't have to go up to the help and then search yourself. So we're really, Joel is kind of heading up that effort, that we're using ways to get better help to better people that's more pertinent to the screen that you're on. It is an enormous project, as you might imagine, so it's something that we are looking forward to helping our districts, but it's a work in progress that will be lots of work going forward. But we're going to get there, doing all we can to help you folks out there. All right, so any other final questions? I don't see any. We did make it in 30 minutes. I appreciate all your attendance. Keep in mind the other webinars that will be coming. And as always, you can always reach out to our customer success team, our support team, or our training team if you have any additional individual questions. Thank you for your attendance. We'll talk to you again soon.